Today, we get a bit of a peek behind the curtain at spring training and get to chat with one of the top 30 prospects in the Cardinals organization, Victor Scott II, on today's episode of Locked on Cardinals.
You are Locked on Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm JD Hafford, and I'm a national radio sports anchor, born and raised in the Lou and a lifetime Cardinals fan, and I'm your host for Locked on Cardinals, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, covering your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter at JD Sports Radio, as well as the podcast at LO_Cardinals. We want to thank those of you who make Locked on Cardinals your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Also available on YouTube. If you like the visuals, be sure to like and subscribe and comment. That way you can interact with us. Hit that notification button so you know when new episodes are posted. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. Today's episode being brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. So what we like to do is introduce you to some of the top prospects that the Cardinals have coming up through their system. We've had a chance to talk to Gordon Graceffo, Mike Antico, and today we're going to welcome to the show another one of the top 30 prospects in the organization. Victor Scott II is joining the podcast today. Good afternoon, Victor. How are you, man?
I'm doing all right. How's it going over there?
It's not bad. Probably not quite as nice as you guys have it down there in Florida, but hey, what are you going to do? That's why you guys are there, spring training, to have nice weather. That way you can play some ball.
Right.
Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Why don't we start where we can introduce you a little bit to the audience and tell them a little bit about yourself. Born in Atlanta, that is correct, right?
Yep. Born in Atlanta.
Okay, so does that make you a Braves fan as a kid growing up?
Yeah, I watched the Braves growing up and watched the Pittsburgh Pirates a lot growing up. So
okay, all right. Yeah. Did you have a certain favorite player on either one of those teams when you were a kid?
Yeah, a lot. I watched Andrew McCutchen a lot, so that's why I was kind of became like a Pirates fan, more so like a Players fan there. But
sure.
My dad is from Pittsburgh, so I was kind of just following in his footsteps and wanted to watch a team where he grew up from. So. Ended up watching a lot of McCutchen.
Yeah, it's kind of cool that he's back with the Pirates. He always looked kind of odd seeing him in different uniforms over the last couple of years. So it just feels right that he's back with the Pirates this year. If you could meet any player while you were a kid growing up, somebody you looked up to, was McCutchen the guy that you would have liked to have met?
Yeah, most definitely. Probably McCutchen or Starling Marte. Two guys I looked up to. So
that's kind of cool that both of them are still in the league, though. Even though as a kid growing up, you got to watch them, and now they're still around and still doing their thing. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, got the potential to play them now, so that would be pretty cool.
I know. Now, is that going to be weird? Like, if you had to go up against them, are you going to be do you get the shock and awe when you get around some of your heroes?
Not necessarily, but it is kind of like cool to remember where I was as a kid, like looking up to them and wanting to be them, and then now you're on the same stage as them. So it's a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah, I'll bet. Did you have any favorite sports outside of baseball? I know obviously you've got the speed. Your parents were athletes. What other sports did you get into?
I played basketball and baseball and football growing up. So those three sports. My dad was a football and track guy. I never personally got to run track because it was in the same season as baseball. So
right.
I was pretty much just on the court on the football field.
Now, if you weren't playing baseball, which sport do you think you would have gravitated more? Would it be basketball or football?
Probably football, but I'm gonna go on the track route. So probably on the track.
Yeah. Less chances of getting knocked out when you're on the track. You don't have to worry about that so much. How about in your downtime? What kind of stuff do you like to get into in your downtime? Are you a computer guy? You a video game guy? What do you do?
So not necessarily like a video game guy. I like to make music when I'm back at home. and I also like to bowl. So that's what a lot of my downtime was spent doing.
There you go. How many 300
Right.
games you got under your belt? You got any?
Haven't been up that high to 300. Closest I got to 300 was a 250. So
Still not too shabby.
it's all right. It's all right.
Now, as far as diet, being a pro athlete, are you a health nut, or are you somebody that just kind of you just know what you can get away with and what you can't?
Yeah, I'm kind of like on the, I'll probably say like the middle ground of that. Like I'm not too much of like a counting calories guy, or yeah, I kind of just make sure I have like a green in whatever I'm eating, or drink a lot of water type of thing. So not necessarily like a super health nut, but I'm on the health side.
Yeah, you kind of have to be. It's just the way it works when you're a pro athlete. Now, if you do have a cheat day, what's that meal that you're going to that you're like, I don't care about anything today. I'm eating this. What would it be?
Um, Probably like IHOP or Waffle House, waffles, pancakes. I'm all in. So
Hey, some people don't like breakfast food, and that's weird to me because it's that one food that is good any time of the day, don't matter when it's
yeah,
made.
yeah,
So
no, seriously.
I get I get you there. All right, so we got your background. We go to West Virginia. That's where you went to college. For those of you that don't know about that, had a very successful career there. Do you have a top memory about being a Mountaineer and playing in college that you can tell us about?
So kind of to disassociate like the top memory and playing in college, probably one of my top memories is we had like this thing called like the Big 12 Challenge, and it's basically like a whole bunch of hard things that are compiled into 1 week. So, and at West Virginia, of course, it's like a lot of hills and whatnot. So
Sure.
we had this really, really long hill that's right next to the football stadium. It's called Law School Hill. And we had to run that 9 times. And that's probably my best memory because I just remember how hard that was and what it took to overcome that and try to get other people up the hill that were on your team. So it was definitely difficult. But
Yeah, running hills.
on the baseball side, yeah, running hills isn't necessarily the best. So
It's exhausting, man. I hated that in college.
right. And then on the baseball side, I'd probably say I robbed a home run at Charlotte, yeah, UNC Charlotte last year, and that was probably like one of the most like exhilarating feelings I've had since I was there.
Now, how far over to the over the wall did you go? Because some people get it and they jump up again. They're like, "Oh, robbed a home run," and it's like it looked like it might have hit off the top of the wall. How far over did you get?
I was probably like 2 to 3 feet over the wall, so I got up pretty high and ended up like grabbing it for somehow, I don't know, but it was crazy.
So it was a legit robbing of a home run. It wasn't one of these little fake ones that people get away with.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
it was legit.
All right. One of the things that you also did in college is you broke the record for stolen bases. Now, when it comes to stealing bases, you kind of grew up in a time where it wasn't like how it was in the 80s when, Ricky and the Cardinals, people are stealing hundreds of bases in a season. The stolen base thing kind of got lost over the years. Was there a certain player that you watched that maybe you took some tips from when it came to learning to steal bases?
I watched a lot of Starling Marte in that aspect. I know I keep on bringing him up, but I
He's
definitely
good,
watched him a
man.
lot. Yeah, he's good ball player, but I watched him trying to like kind of mimic his first step because he always seemed like he had a step before the pitcher. So I was like, man, maybe if I got that step before the pitcher, I could be as successful, if not more successful than he is. So that's kind of what I try to emulate.
Yeah, it's an art to stealing bases, and we're going to talk more about stealing bags here in a minute. I want to get on to when you got drafted by the Cardinals. You were a fifth-round pick just last year, 2022. Where were you on draft day? Because it's always an interesting story when it comes to baseball players getting drafted, because it's a totally different thing than people associate a draft with the NFL or the NBA. Major League Baseball draft totally different, a lot more rounds. What were you doing that day when you got the call?
So that day I had a workout earlier that day, and I hit, and then I came back home, and then my mom and my dad were just getting back home from work. And then my girlfriend was also there. And I was just sitting on the bed watching the draft tracker on my phone, and then sitting next to my phone, just waiting for my agent to call me and report some good news. And I texted him probably like 30 seconds before, and I was like, "Hey, are you hearing anything?" And he was like, "No, nothing yet." Like 15 to 30 seconds later, he called me, and then he was like, "Hey, you're about to hear your name called on the screen." And I was like, I don't know, it just felt so surreal, like all the hard work that you put in just kind of like was showed on display, and it was just your name was called and got the tingly feeling and all. So it was pretty neat celebrating it like with my parents and my loved ones too. So it was pretty cool.
Now, the St. Louis Cardinals are the team that obviously took you. Were you familiar with the Cardinals organization? I mean, if you followed the Pirates, obviously you know a little bit about the Cardinals being in the same division and all. But were you excited when you were like, "Whoa, St. Louis? What am I going to do there?"
Yeah, I was actually really excited. My aunt, she passed away probably, I want to say 3 months prior to the draft, and she lived in St. Louis. So I have like a lot of family in St. Louis too. So it was kind of cool to see like my name was called by them, because it felt like she had a part in it. So it was just kind of a connection there, and I definitely enjoyed it.
Kind of one of those surreal moments where it's like meant to be. You're like, no way, no
Yeah,
way. The
yeah,
Cardinals are the ones that took me. That's pretty cool.
yeah, it's
Um,
pretty neat.
so you get your bonus money in the 5th round there. What was the first thing you bought? Anything fun?
Um, I'm not like a big like super like materialistic guy, or like big cars or anything like that. So I think I went to the mall and bought myself a pair of shoes, and then the rest of it I put in my savings, because I was like, man, I can't see this anymore. It's
Yeah.
I can't see it. So,
No,
yeah.
understood. Do you remember what kind of shoes you got? Do you have a specific style that you're more attracted to?
Yeah. The first pair of shoes I got, I believe, were Alexander McQueen's. I don't know if you've ever heard of those, but like kind of like dressy shoes on that end. But I like Jordans, I like Nikes, pretty much just the standard
Yeah.
guy.
Understood. Understood. All right. Well, last year was your first year in the minor league system, so we're going to talk more about that with Victor, and we're going to talk about some of your teammates that you had at Palm Beach, and obviously we got to ask you some questions about spring training. So we're going to do that next year on Locked On Cardinals. What I want to talk about real quick though is, in case you guys haven't visited FanDuel yet, you need to do so. The midway point of the NBA season is here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, it's secure, it's super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scorers and three-pointers drained. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. That's where you make a bunch of smaller bets, and as the game goes on, you can say to continue to hit on those, and your chances at a bigger score increases. So it's a good way to make a full game a little more interesting than just waiting on what the final score is going to be. So don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/locked-on. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. We're visiting with Victor Scott II here on Locked On Cardinals, and I assume I'm not sure, but is your dad's name Victor as well? Is that where the second comes from, or is it from somebody else in the family? You still there, Victor? Uh-oh, we've got some technical difficulties going on, and this is unfortunate. All right, well, hopefully we'll get Victor back. Okay, here he comes. All right, I think we got him back. Victor, you there? Okay, all
Yeah.
right. It's all good. Hey, this is the world we live in now, man. This is how we do things, so it's understandable. I don't know if you
Right.
heard my last question, but is your father's name Victor? Is that where the second comes from?
Yeah. His name's Victor as well.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about what you did this past year. You get drafted by the Cardinals, 5th round. You go to the Cape Cod League, and then you end up at Palm Beach. So, what was the biggest adjustment for you going from the college game and then hitting the minor leagues right after it?
I would say the biggest adjustment is the new rules and the time clock. So the pace of play is definitely a lot faster. You know, in college you're having sometimes 3 hour, 30-minute games to 4 hour games, like
Oof.
on average. And then
Yeah.
you get here and then the games are 2 hours and 30 minutes long, maybe 3 hours at the most. So it was definitely like a difference in the pace of play. I'd say like pitchers wise and just how people play the game, it's definitely like a little bit more, I would say like relaxed because more people are like focused on their skill set. So,
Okay.
and it's not necessarily like their direction is to winning each and every game. It's like individual players are playing to get to, you know, a certain standard that they want to get to. So
Right.
you kind of like sense that in the gameplay, but
Okay.
it's
Yeah, it's
definitely a
interesting
difference.
because each guy is kind of, yeah, you're like, okay, we're a team and we're trying to win, but at the same time, look, I'm trying to get up another level, so I'm working on my
Yeah,
own
I'm trying to
craft.
move.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So
Right.
that is part of it. You know, I haven't heard that answer very often. So with the new rules and everything, moving on, because this has obviously been a huge talk now that the major leagues are using these rules as well. Does the game feel rushed to you? Because as fans, most fans seem pretty darn happy with it. They like the fact that things are moving a little bit quicker, not a lot of downtime. But at the same time, being a former player, I know that there are moments in the game where you're kind of like, I need to take a breath. Hold on, let me get my stuff together here and get coordinated. And then you don't really have that chance to do that anymore because you get the one time out as a hitter. I think it's even tougher on the pitchers out there who don't have a chance. You know, they throw 3 balls in a row and they want to step off or whatever. They don't really have the opportunity to do that so more. Does the game feel rushed to you as a player when you first started getting used to these rules?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely felt I had to change up my routine. I think my first or second AB, like in pro ball, I think I got struck out by the time clock. So I was like, this is so new to me, but I got to make an adjustment in like my pre-pitch routine. So I had to start, you know, not necessarily unwinding and winding the gloves. Just if you swing at a pitch and foul it off, you get right back in there and you're ready to go. So
Uh, what was your reaction when you got
for
struck out by
sure.
the clock? Were you like, excuse me? What did you say? I'm out?
Yeah, that's pretty much how I reacted. He said strike three, and I was like, oh, I could have sworn the count was 1-2 or 2-2. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, what happened? Where the hell did the strike come from? And then sure enough, I look at the time clock, and he was like, you weren't in the box looking at the pitcher. I was in the box, but wasn't looking at the pitcher yet. So it got me with that.
What is yeah, just a strange it's strange, but I've noticed watching spring training games that you're seeing less violations already. People are kind of getting into the groove of it. So you know, it takes a little bit of time to get used to, but you know, it seems like people are picking up on it pretty quickly. I want to talk about your Palm Beach team real quick. There are some names that, you know, you being in the top 30 prospects, some other guys that are on that list were also your teammates, guys like Joshua Baez, Leonardo Bernal, Jimmy Crooks III, and the organization's top pitching prospect, Tink Hintz, also on the roster last year. Now we've seen Hintz this spring, and he's been really, really good. What is it about Tink that makes him so tough to hit?
So what makes Tink so tough to hit is he has three pitches to my knowledge, but and they're all elite. So when you have three pitches that you can control that are all elite, it's kind of hard as a hitter to know that he has that much confidence in his pitches and he knows where they're going. And it's like he has three plus pitches that you have to essentially try to hit. So and he does a good job with planning those pitches. So it doesn't really look like you can't see the spin out of his hand necessarily. But like when it gets like halfway to the plate, that's when it starts to either rise his fastball or start to go down and into a righty as his changeup or start to break down as his curveball or slider. So it's definitely pretty fun to watch him throw. Kind of electric guy. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And now being just 20 years old, I mean, you guys are all young men, but like just 20 years old for Tink. He's got a bright future ahead of him, as do a lot of your teammates from that team. One of the things that you do really well, speaking of skill sets, is obviously the stolen bases, which we brought up because you did so well at West Virginia with them. And I want to get to the new rules on this as well. Has it been easier for you when it comes to stealing bases because of the new disengagement rules for pitchers and the bigger bases? Have you found them to make life a little easier for guys like you who can steal bases so well?
Yeah, it's basically like a game of chess at that point. Like it's like a game of chess, but the person's next move. So
Mm-hmm.
if he picks off, I know he only has essentially one left, and then he has another one, but he has to get me out. So you can kind of play with him, try to get a better pitch for the hitter. But that's essentially like what my job is. I'm just trying to make that pitcher really think like, okay, if I pick off more than once, he's gonna steal on this pitch. And then meanwhile, while he's thinking all that, he gives the hitter a nice fastball to hit. So
Right.
that's essentially what I'm trying to do. But
Yeah.
as a base stealer, it's definitely fun to take I would say like advantage of, because you essentially know he only has really 2 times to pick off, and on that third one he has to get you. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
What about catchers throwing behind you over at first base? We're starting to see that a lot more in the spring. One of the guys for the Cardinals, Wilson Contreras, has been amazing at that over the years. Yadier Molina before that was one of the best to ever do it. Have you noticed that a lot in your first year? Was that something that you had in the back of your head all the time that, all right, let's not get off too far here at first base because I might get caught?
Yeah, that's definitely something I had in my head. It happened a couple of times, like in college, where I get off too far, I get too antsy because I'm ready to steal, and then they end up picking off, and I'm kind of like frozen, like a deer in headlights. So that definitely has happened before. So I've been on that side of the boat as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's one way that the major league teams are going to try to keep the running game at bay this year. It just seems like something you'll see a lot more of those than maybe you did in the past, where it was like maybe once or twice a game. Now it might be a couple more times. So it's just something to keep in the back of your mind as a fan, that you might see a couple more pickoff throws down there to first base from the catchers this year. Now, coming into the season, Major League Baseball put out that fresh new top prospect list for the league, and each team, they call it the MLB Pipeline Top 100. I know you're familiar with this, but some of the listeners may not be. And then what they do is they drop a top 30 for each team. You ended up landing at number 29 on the list for the Cardinals this season. What was your initial thought when you heard that news that you would crack the top 30, which is a big deal?
Yeah, I was pretty stoked. I remember seeing it. I was like at training, and I was like, oh man, this is pretty cool. And then my trainer was like, well, you know where the next goal is, so top 10 the next goal. And I was like, right. So I kind of just I acknowledged it for I'd probably say like 5 minutes, a couple minutes or so, told my mom and dad about it, and then kind of moved on to saying, well, we keep on working hard like we are, we can end up in the top 10. So that's my next goal.
All right. Yeah, that's what we're looking forward to. And I like that attitude, man, because that's what you got to do. Keep getting better each and every day. Now that you're at spring training, because most of us don't get to see the behind the scenes of what you guys are doing. We'll hear about you guys on backfields, and obviously you'll see a few games throughout the spring. But what's a normal day at spring training like for you? Like, what time are you guys getting up and getting going on a day?
So a normal day of spring training, we normally have breakfast in the mornings. Probably if the bus leaves at 8:45, I'll get down there at 8:30 just so I can have like 15 minutes to eat. Hop on the bus, and then we'll head over to the field. Once you get to the field, you'll go ahead and suit up, and then you'll head to body preparation. So that just accounts for like mobility, working on filling the thing like your core, things that you need, for that day. After that, then you go into we all split off into separate fields. So it may be like the older guys on one field, the young guys on another, kind of like the middle age. However, like between, I don't want to say like a split up between like the levels, but it kind of is to put it like that. just so it's a little bit easier to grasp onto. But we'll
Sure.
go through a warm up, and then the outfielders and infielders kind of break off and then do like individual defense or go to the cages. Once that time limit is done, then they'll switch, and then we may do like kind of like mass defense on the field or like base running, and then we'll go into like a BP on the field. And then if you have live that day, then you'll hit off of a pitcher, which is pretty fun. Always competing with those guys, and after that, you grab lunch, and you're pretty much home free or hotel free.
Moving on to making some music, right? That's what you do with when you're done with the day, right?
Right.
So far in camp, who's been the nastiest pitcher you've gotten to see in live batting practice? Did we lose you again? You still there, Victor?
Yep, I'm right here.
Okay. I don't know if you heard the last question. Who's the nastiest guy you've gone up against so far in live BP? Oh, it's cutting out again.
Let's see. I faced our first round pick, Cooper Jerby.
Yeah.
Today, I faced him today. He's pretty deceptive. Ball kind of comes out from I don't even know how to describe it. It's like his hip, kind of. It's odd. It's odd for sure, but it's definitely. I see why he went in the first round. He's a great pitcher. It was pretty good AB I put up against him too, but he's probably nastiest. He threw a slider that I didn't even know was a slider today. So I mean, crazy.
Well, that's good. Good news for the Cardinals. Maybe they picked a good one there in the first round. Yeah, when you're talking arm slots, you're used to seeing a ball come out of a certain area, and when it drops down, it comes out of somewhere you aren't used to. It's a little weird, pretty deceptive.
Yeah.
So you get to camp and you show up and you're around guys like, famous ball players, Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt. Adam Wainwright could be your dad, dude. That's how old he is nowadays. Wilson Contreras. Guys that you've seen growing up. Do you go over and talk to them and introduce yourself, or is that something that's kind of like forbidden? You guys, you got to hang back a little bit.
Me personally, I'm more like a quiet guy, so I kind of just try to like listen to like little things that they say or to someone else and try to pick up on. But I have introduced myself to them. I don't necessarily like the only time I've been up there is when like we're in game time, so I kind of just let them have that time to themselves because I mean they're professionals, or we're all professionals, but they're like big name guys, so I just try to stay out the way, try to observe from the seats in the back and just try to see like things they do and then how they go about being as good as they are. So
now as an outfielder, you'll obviously spend time with other outfielders more than any of the other position players. I read online StatCast measured you with multiple sub-4 home to first times in the Florida State League, and you recorded 11 of the 12 highest sprint speeds on the Palm Beach base paths. Despite your relatively late start, your legs make you a natural center fielder, and you've got enough arm to handle yourself out there. The legs are a big part of your game. So who's faster, you or, say, Tyler O'Neill, who's considered one of the fastest guys in all of baseball?
I'm gonna. I know Tyler's got some wheels, but I'm gonna say me 100%.
Yeah, because another guy on the team who actually
I always got to bet on myself. So.
As you should. Always keep it that way. Another guy that's got some really good wheels on the team, might be one of your teammates at some point, like on one of the minor league teams, is Mike Antico. He's another fast one as well. Have you gotten a chance to work out with him at all?
Yeah. We were in the we were like 2 weeks ago, or about for 2 weeks when we first arrived, we were in step camp. So I got to got to work out with him and talk to him with a little because kind of had like a connection from like the Big 12. He was a Texas guy, I was a West Virginia guy, so got to kind of build that connection, that rapport. For sure.
Very nice. Very nice. Have you had much interaction with Lars Nootbaar at all while he was still at camp before he left?
I talked to him a little bit, but again, he was in the field and playing, so I kind of wanted to stay out his way, see things like that he did that made him who he is. So
yeah, well, because that's what I wanted to ask about, more personality than anything. Is he as wild as he seems in person as he is on TV? Because he just seems like he comes at you with a lot of energy all the time.
Yeah, he the first time I met him, I know he had like a big thing of like sunflower seeds and was like, "Hey, you want some?" And I was like, I was kind of confused because it was my first day. It was my first day there, so I was like, confused. It was pretty my first day, unique experience for sure.
All right. Have you, when it comes to the celebrations, every team's got a little something that they do. And the one thing the Cardinals were known for last year was grinding the pepper. That was the big deal. Lars has got Team Japan over there. He's got Shohei Ohtani grinding the pepper on Team Japan right now. Is there any celebratory things that you guys do, like that you did at Palm Beach or at West Virginia that you might bring up to the majors with you?
What do we do? We had it was like a couple of TikTok dances that we were doing. Like if you hit like a double or a triple, trying to remember back. I know my personal favorite is playing the guitar. So I'll go up and act like I'm like a rock star or something. And like if I slide in a third for a triple, I'll get up and play the guitar. So
oh, so you do the strum. So I was thinking you were going to do the like the big rock star.
Not the electric guitar, not the electric guitar.
All right, I got you. All right, so let's talk about your first start that you had on Monday against the Astros. How were the nerves on that day when you find out you're going to be in the starting lineup? How were you feeling that day?
Man, I was feeling pretty. I had like those nervous butterflies going. I first got like the text that I was moving. I was going to be like on the taxi squad the day prior. So I got sent the text from the hitting coordinator, and he was like, "You're going to be going up to the big league game tomorrow." And I was like, "Okay, awesome." And then like 10 minutes later, he texted me. He's like, "You're going to be starting." And like all the butterflies just rushed to my stomach, and I was like, "All right, I hope this isn't here tomorrow." So come the next day game day. Started off in the minor league side and practiced over there, and then went up to the game, warmed up like with everybody that was in the starting lineup. So I had to kind of calm myself down and poise myself how they were acting. So I put a piece of bubble gum in, and then after that, I was kind of just I was cool then. But definitely had butterflies the first time I got that text message. So,
and then you go out and you have an outstanding game, and then everybody's talking about you, man. It was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely blessed.
Now, well, obviously, we got to ask you this about some of the guys that are on the team right now, other prospects. What are your thoughts on Jordan Walker and Masyn Winn? They're having outstanding springs. You get to see them day in and day out. What do you take away from what they're doing right now?
Oh man, those guys are video game characters, man. It's pretty cool to talk to them and see how they go about, like their work ethic and see like how special of a talent these guys are. Like Jordan's bat to ball skills and power input into like his bat to ball skills is unmatched. Kind of nothing I've really ever seen before. And then you got Masyn, who's also bat to ball skills are well. He's a fast runner and it has a lightning rod of an arm. So it's kind of cool to see those guys go about like their day and interact with them as well.
Mentioned earlier you were at A-ball last year. When do you guys find out, like talking about this spring right now, when do you guys find out what level you're going to go to this year? Like, have they given you any idea where you might be?
Not necessarily. They haven't really given us like any idea yet. I'm pretty sure that would probably be like more towards like the end of spring training.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily like know 100% like when they would tell you, because this is my first spring training. So I don't necessarily know right now, but I'm pretty sure I'll find out as the spring training closes.
All right, one final question for you. If one day, when you make it to the major leagues, you get that first hit, what are you going to do with the baseball?
I think I'm going to give it to my mom and my dad. They probably the most influential, kind of like my rock of people. So I can always go back to them and always talk to them. So they've helped me all throughout my career since I was little, and whatever I wanted to do, rather it be go play basketball outside with friends or do schoolwork. I know my mom was heavy on me with that, but they always supported me in everything I've ever done. So that ball's definitely got to go to them.
Where do you think they'll put it? They got a mantle of any of your other accomplishments over the years, or do you think that has a special place somewhere in the house?
They'll probably. I have no idea where they might put that ball. They'll probably put it in a case somewhere. Hopefully somewhere where it's premiered in the house. But I have no idea. But that hopefully they'll put it like in the living room or somewhere where somebody can see it.
I mean, I'm sure they will. Why wouldn't they be proud of their boy? All right. Well, we hope that dream becomes a reality real soon for you, rather than sooner rather than later. Once again, thanks for jumping on here, Victor, and we hope you'll come back and join us at some time here in the future. And best of luck to you this year. All right, pal?
All right. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Cardinals top 30 prospect, Victor Scott. Well, we want to thank you guys for hanging out with us today. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On Fantasy Baseball. Win your league by listening to Matt and Dom every day as they bring you the best fantasy draft strategies. Find Locked On Fantasy Baseball wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. You guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason, and we'll see you next time on Locked On Cardinals.